Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled Malicious Over Compliance. A friend of mine was working for a company that served a small niche market. They were in fierce competition with one other company. There were others out there, but only two were major players. After a few years and a couple promotions, he realized some company practices were clearly unethical and probably illegal as well. I remember him saying one day how he needed to get out of there, because people were going to end up in jail. He got an interview with a company in a different industry. He didn't actually get the job he interviewed for, but they thought he would be perfect for a new division they were starting up soon. The problem was, that wouldn't be up and running for about 2 months. Still, he was anxious to leave his old job and he accepted the offer on the spot. The old company required 2 weeks' notice, and he had seen them go out of their way to make employees' last 2 weeks as miserable as possible. But he had a plan. He would over-comply. He told his boss the next day and said he was starting another job in 8 weeks. When asked where he would be working, he politely said, "I'd rather not say." As he expected, they automatically assumed he was going to work for the competition. They also assumed that since he wasn't admitting it, he must be planning to take clients with him, steal trade secrets, or something else. Within an hour he was locked out of his computer. Then both HR and security showed up to tell him he was being put on paid leave for his final 8 weeks and escort him out of the building. He did very well in his new career. Within a few years his old company was bankrupt and some of the management, including his old boss, were convicted of fraud and other charges. The next story is titled, You Wanna Smell My Breath? Back when I was in my late teens, I was driving back from my friend's house and I took a corner a little fast and noticed, in my rear view, a cop turn around behind me. I was headed to Main Street where I would have turned north to head home, but I wanted to see if he was following me or just headed the same direction, so I crossed Main Street and went 2 blocks east, turned right, pulled over and shut off my lights. He kept going east. Now what I should have done was just driven south a block and headed back to Main and home. What I did was flip around and then go back the way I came so I could check on him. Once again, he turned around and started following me. I headed up Main Street driving normally. I would use my signal to change lanes and he would change lanes to remain behind me. After a couple of blocks of this, I signaled right, changed lanes and then turned right before he had a chance to change lanes. He still followed. I turned left at the next street thinking I would swing by my friend's house, but then I thought, screw this. I'm going home. It was pretty late anyway. So I go back to Main Street and head north. At this point he finally pulls me over. He wanders up and asks where I'm going. I tell him home. He says that he noticed me going a little fast around a corner and I said yeah, sorry. He asks why I drove up to 2nd East. I replied, to see if you were following me. He asks why I turned off Main Street just before he pulled me over. To see if you were still following me. He asks if I've had anything to drink. I said, just root beer. Now here's the thing. That summer, Shasta was on sale for like $2.50 a case. That's 24, not a 12-pack. So we were buying and drinking root beer like it was going out of style. Plus my friend was Vietnamese, so we'd been eating some smelly food. The officer's next question. Can I smell your breath? QMC. Sure. I said, and then I let him have it. He coughed and grunted an okay or something like it. He said, you're going home? I said yes. He said, all right. Go on then. Have a good night. I think some of my favorite police interactions I've had are when I blatantly tell the truth. The next story is titled, Making My Landlord Pay Over $100K for Fixing a Sink. So I'm a college student and I rent a room from a landlord and live in a house with multiple other students. The contract for my room clearly says that I have to fix all the damages to my room that I have caused, at my own cost, and that all the bigger issues in the house will be covered by the landlord. Well, one day I noticed that my sink is kind of clogged and it's making a weird noise. He says it's probably my own fault and that he should get a plunger to fix the problem. A little background info about the house that I live in: all the sinks at the top level of the house connect to the same pipe and everyone heard the same noise. So the chance of it being my fault would be almost zero. But since I had to fix the problem on my own, I tried my best. However, you might have guessed it, but I'm not really good at this since it's not my job. I even have my dad check it since he knows more about this stuff than I do, and he says the pipe is clogged somewhere but doesn't know exactly how far down the pipe. So I tried my best to fix the problem myself, but since it's clearly a bigger issue that is not my fault, I contact my landlord once again. He still refuses to come and fix the clogged sink, even after me clearly stating that everyone is hearing this noise in the house, and tells me to solve my own problems like an adult would. Well, since I'm legally not an adult yet and having tried my best, me and the other residents in the house had decided to give up trying to fix the issue and just let it be. A month later, one person in the house had water coming out of her sink because it completely clogged, and within days everyone was having the same issue. Because now everyone was complaining to the landlord, he had to fix the problem, since it was a bigger problem within the house that everyone was experiencing. Not only did he have to fix the clogged pipe of all the sinks, but he also had to fix the water damage that we all had in our rooms because the water would just come out of the sink. When he finally decided to hire someone to fix the problem, the costs were already up to $100K and probably will be even more, since some of the other people living within the house have sued the landlord for not agreeing to the contact and for neglect of his basic duties as landlord. He even called us and screamed at us why we didn't mention the problem earlier, to which I replied that I tried to solve the problem as an adult by informing my landlord, who was supposed to fix it, but that this clearly didn't help. The next story is titled, Inspect Your First Aid Kit. I work for a company that has multiple locations. Each location is managed separately. I got called from my place of full-time employment to another location due to short staffing. My manager agrees to send me over to help. This other manager has to step out when I arrive. Now, instead of having their own health and safety rep inspect their location's first aid kit, tells me to do it. I am the rep at my location, by the way. I ask for clarification. You want me to inspect your first aid kit? Yup. This just rubbed me the wrong way, but okay. I then proceed to mark everything as incorrect. You have 50 of the same type of band-aid, it says, assorted. Needs restocking. These are 4x4 cm gauze pads, it requires 5x5. Needs restocking. Tensor bandages, incorrect width, length. Wrong length forceps. You get the idea. Signed it. Needs manager authorization. Faxed it to head office before shift ends and leave. Enjoy restocking this tomorrow. I never got asked to fill in temporarily at that location again. The next story is titled, Transfer Request Denied, Here's My Notice. I made the mistake of giving 6 months notice. Wasn't happy with my position, request to transfer to another department denied. I said I would be leaving before the winter season. Problem is, my transfer was denied because I was the only one in my department being stretched across doing the work of 3 people while simultaneously being unable to implement ideas to make my job easier or more efficient. I had enough. I liked the company and the people that worked for it, but my supervisor was the type to take credit for my achievements while throwing you under the bus if something went wrong. Anyways, 3 months go by and I try approaching the subject of training a replacement soon. That blows up in my face as they take it as me trying to be managerial, told I'm a cog and to do what you're told and nothing more. Before that talk, much of what I did was things I set in place with little to no training from my supervisor. As you can imagine, my work performance dropped remarkably. Next 3 months I kept my head low and mouth shut while quietly tossing out any charts or sheets I'd developed to organize my day-to-day operations. Fall rolled around, no trainee in sight, which I had been perfectly willing to train before. Ended up putting in a 2-week notice, to which they acted surprised. Given my recent performance, I'm certain my supervisor had many negative things to say about me. Later heard from a former coworker that it had taken them nearly 4 months to hire a replacement. Which meant my supervisor was left trying to do my job and theirs for the past 4 months. The next story is titled, Just Leave It, We Can Do Laundry on Saturday. When I was in my early 20s I had a BF and we lived together the last 6 months of our relationship. We lived together and his twin 7-year-old daughters. It was a small space with a small washer and dryer. As you can imagine, the hamper filled up quickly. So I did laundry every day or every other day. Wash, dry, fold, sort into piles. I'd give the girls their clothes and they would put them away. I'd put mine away and I'd give him his. After a few weeks of this, he got frustrated at me. I'm tired, every night all I want to do is go to bed and you hand me a stack of laundry to put away. Just leave it, we can do it on Saturday. I'm sitting here thinking, you ungrateful jerk, I wash, I dry, I fold, I sort, for me and you and or, not mine, 2 kids, and all I ask is you put your own clothes away. It would have taken 5 minutes. So I said okay and I stopped doing his laundry and their laundry. Not grateful for doing you a favor and helping care for your kids? No problem. I'm happy to stop. But I kept doing mine. He didn't really notice until one day he's like, "Hey, I'm almost out of clean clothes." I just shrugged and said, "Huh, I guess you better do some laundry then." His mouth was just hanging open in shock. It was glorious when he saw the mound of clothes and realized that none of them were mine. The next story is titled, "Don't Do Extra." Okay, stop working here? Sounds good. Hey all. Sorry, but this is a long one. Allow me to start by painting a picture. This was about 3 years ago. I was working in the bakery of a local high-end grocer, think gourmet Whole Foods, and had been there 3 years. What started as a college job for a semester turned out to be a longer-term thing. I loved the work, the customers, and my co-workers. That is until the final month there. I was online for a promotion to assistant manager. In my time there, I had been passed over for different promotions for people that were more favorable for the company image. When the position came up, I was the only person across the company that applied. I thought I was a shoo-in and had been led to believe that it was as good as mine. The old assistant manager was transferring to a higher position and took extra time to train me before leaving. Weeks passed and I heard no news. No one in my department was getting an answer for when I'd be given the step up. That was until someone elsewhere asked us when the new assistant manager was transferring in from another store. Turned out that my boss's boss, we'll call him Greg, decided that I was a terrible fit and went above her to push someone into the role, someone that didn't want it and hadn't been trained for it. I complained to someone higher up, saying I should have at least been told that the decision was reversed. No word came and the new ASST manager started. It only took a couple days to realize that she had barely worked in the bakery and had not been trained for her position. She also seemed to target me, assuming that I didn't know how to do the most basic things we did. I later found out that Greg told her I was a problem employee and needed to be watched closely and given guidance. Out of the blue, our manager was given the boot and replaced. She had no warning, we had no warning, and suddenly someone from a completely different store and department was in her position. This person had no clue how to do the job, and with the training that the old ASST manager gave me, I took over most of the day-to-day tasks. Greg came in one day and threw a fit that I was doing inventory. He said that I had no place acting like I was in charge and doing jobs that weren't meant for people like me. Fine. Inventory? Not getting done. Dating and tossing old product? Not my problem now. Helping customers with issues and complaints? Let me grab the manager instead. Making sure things are filed and ordered WHE needed? No thanks. I started doing the bare minimum, took all of my breaks, clocked in exactly when my shift was scheduled and left exactly when it ended no matter what I was doing. They didn't want me to go outside my station, then I wouldn't. Easy days for me. Suddenly issues popped up left and right and our new management was scrambling to figure things out. I told them nothing since it wasn't my place to teach them how to do their jobs. This all came to an end when I was called into a meeting with the store manager, we'll call him Rob. Rob, Greg has told me that you've had a lot of issues lately. Me, I bet he has. I'm just doing my job now, he told me to. Rob, well, he told your manager to stop scheduling you after today. He wanted me to tell you. Me, are you firing me? Rob, no, Greg said that you won't be scheduled, but you may be used as an emergency call-in during the holidays. Me, I'm not working, but I'm not fired? This is bullcrap. Rob, I agree. But he's above me when it comes to what happens in your department. Me, alright. I'll finish today, but after that I'm done. This is some stupid work politics and I'm not playing this game with him. I kept my word and finished my shift without complaint. As soon as the end hit, I walked away and clocked out. That's when I told my coworkers what had happened during that meeting. I bid them farewell and walked out. The next morning I was woken up before sunrise by a call from Greg. He said that almost everyone in our department had quit overnight and he needed me in to open. I reminded him that he didn't want me there, so I quit. He demanded I return and help train a new team, so I did what anyone would do. I told him to do it himself, go duck himself, and hung up. Last I heard from a few friends that are still with the company, our department didn't really recover all the way and people still talk about how we all left together one day. If you see this and recognize the story, duck you Greg. The next story is titled, Phone? Sorry, just my diabetes pump. Just found this sub. This story dates back to my senior year of high school, 2013. My school was quite small, we had a graduating class of 92, so everyone knew everyone. All the teachers were amazing and very involved in our academic lives, but for the most part had nothing but good intentions. Unfortunately, there was one teacher, our English app teacher, who was just an absolute jerk. She was the type of teacher that if she saw you with your cell phone out, even during lunch or in between classes, that she would take it, give it to the principal, and give you a detention. I decided to duck with her one day because she was quite clearly in a pissed-off mood and the opportunity was perfect. I was standing in line for lunch and I got my pump out. I was diagnosed with diabetes at age 8 and I have had a pump since 9. It looks a whole lot like a cell phone other than the tube running from it to my body. Without really looking closely, it can easily be confused with a cell phone. She sees me playing with my pump and comes over to me. This is obviously not exact words used. I more than likely was a little disrespectful, but I definitely knew the boundaries and would never be so blatantly rude or disrespectful that it would deem necessary to get a detention. Teacher, give it to me now and follow me to the principal's office. Me, no, I need this to live. Teacher, give it to me now, I will not ask again. Me, no, leave me alone, I just want to eat my lunch. She then grabs my arm and drags me to the principal's office. I was very close to the principal as I was the class president, so I spent a lot of time with her planning school events and such. Teacher, this student had their phone out during lunch, refused to give it to me, and was rude and back-talked me. Principal, is this true? Me, no ma'am, my cell phone is currently in my locker. Teacher, I saw you playing with it in line. Principal, me, please give us your cell phone. Me, okay, follow me to my locker then. Teacher, no, give it to us now, it is in your pocket. Me, no it's not. Teacher, then empty your pockets. I proceed to empty my pockets, which was a pack of gum, and then I have my pump in my hand because it's connected to me, so I can't put it on the table. Teacher, why would you lie to me when you obviously have it in your hand? Me, this is my diabetes pump. Teacher, why didn't you tell me? Me, you never asked if it was a cell phone, you just tried taking it away from me. Teacher, this is ridiculous, you need to show more respect. Principal, I think we are done here. Teacher, you can leave, I will talk with me. Teacher leaves and is quite obviously pissed off about the situation. I tell principal the truth about the trap I set for teacher and that I hope she isn't pissed at me and I won't do it again. She chuckles a little bit, tells me to go eat lunch and she will see me later for a school fundraiser event. I never had another encounter with teacher, and during class she made it a point to try not to talk to me. The next story is titled, My Teacher Told Me to Shut Up, So I Did. This was back in maybe 5th grade. I had just gotten a new math teacher who always blamed me when my classmate beside me talked to others next to him. So one day I was drawing in my math book, not paying attention to the subject he was teaching, when suddenly my classmate started whispering to a guy next to him. My teacher quickly turned around and said, "Do not disturb the class op." And I just looked up and said it wasn't me. He just shook his head and started on a new topic, so I went back to drawing. Not even 10 minutes pass and the classmate next to me starts talking again and my teacher yells, "Op. If you do not keep your mouth shut in class, then get out." Again I tried to explain that it was not me. But he did not believe me. And told me to just shut up. And this is where I thought to myself, sure, I will keep my mouth shut. He carry on teaching, and suddenly he asks a question out to the class and nobody is having their hand up. I am again just drawing in my math book, minding myself, when he asks, "Op, can you tell me how this is calculated?" I literally just look at him, and as he told me to, I am keeping my mouth shut. He begins to get visibly frustrated but just shrugs it off and keep on going. But then I need to visit the bathroom and I just stand up and start to walk towards the door, and he stares at me and yells, "Where do you think you are going?" And I just look at him and start walking down the hall towards the bathroom. While walking, he sticks his head out and yells, "Get back here and sit down outside the classroom until I come out." So I go back and sit down, and just wait. 20 minutes go by, and he comes out and squats down and asks, "Op, why are you not saying anything? Is something wrong?" And then I simply tell him, "Well, you told me to shut up, even when I told you it was not me who talked. So I did not say anything as you told me to." He got pissed and said, "Fine, if you want to act like a child, then do it at the principal's office." And sure enough, I went back inside the classroom to pick up my bag and went to the principal's office and just sat there. The next story is titled, "I asked for extra sauce on my wings. I got wing soup." So for the last few months I've been getting less and less sauce on my wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, so lately I've been asking for extra sauce. Last time I bought wings I asked for extra sauce and got completely sauceless wings. I was pretty annoyed, because this keeps happening. They had absolutely no sauce on them, so this time when I ordered my wings I said, "Drench 'em." I got my order and it has 5 extra sauce stickers on it, and over an inch of sauce at the bottom of the bowl. I can't say I didn't ask for it. My husband and I had a laugh, and I have some sauce to make my own wings later, I guess. The next story is titled, "Boss told me to check noise on an Audi V8 at high speed on German Autobahn." This happened decades ago, about 1990. I worked at a garage in Germany, and the owner of the garage just had a demonstration car, an Audi V8 with 250 HP, which was at least 3 times the average power a normal car had at that time. The Audi was brand new and had about 300 kilometers. The owner's daughter thought she heard a noise at high speed. Nobody could find or hear anything. She insisted she was right and went that far to blame my older superiors, who were in their 40s, for having weak ears, not being able to hear high-pitched sound. Needless to say, they were a little bit pissed about it. So they told me to test drive the car. I was like, "Duck, yeah." My superior told me where I should drive on the highway, which was about 500 meters from the garage to get there. Sadly, there was a speed limit of 120 kilometers per hour. My superior told me to drive on that highway and get the first exit near the Autobahn and get back to the garage. He insisted I take the first exit there and not the second. I asked him and he said the same thing again. Oldest colleague was standing next to us, asking him he should take the first exit, not the second, and then head back on the fastest way. My superior insisted the first exit was correct and I should drive as fast as is allowed. He confirmed the last sentence. So I went to the highway, hit the gas, and those 250 horses went real fast, compared to the 75 horsepower VW Rabbit Mk1 I was driving. I ran down the highway with about 160 and took the first exit like I was told. So I was on the Autobahn, on a stretch with no speed limit, with the next exit about 12 kilometers away. I hit full throttle and did not drive faster than the allowed speed limit. I drove top speed of about 244 kilometers per hour and could not hear a single ducking noise. Got to the exit, turned around, and drove another 12 kilometers backwards with the same speed. Couldn't hear anything at all. When I got back to the garage, owner, his wife and his daughter, both working there in the bureau, superior and the old colleague were already waiting for me, kind of anxious. They were relieved when they saw me and even more relieved when they saw that the car was also okay. Owner, who was a great and funny guy, mostly, just turned around, hopped in another car and pissed off. My superior tried to look angry but couldn't He asked me if I really hit full throttle on the Autobahn and I said sure, but I did not drive faster than the speed limit. Old colleague was laughing, saying he said I should take the first exit on that junction and it was obviously his fault and not mine. Meanwhile, you could hear the catalytic converter making these chunking sounds when those kind of converters went real hot. The daughter asked how fast I drove and I said, well, about 240 kilometers per hour I guess, but I was taking more care of the road than the speedometer, and her mother was like, so, his young ears did not hear anything, are you happy now or should we send him to Hockenheimring, Formula 1 race course nearby, and let him do some rounds, whilst you pay the gas? Daughter went kinda red, looked at her shoes and went away. From that incident, it was a running gag when a customer complained about noise, which the daughter wrote down because it was her job, that the superior and everybody else asked, at high speed or top speed, whilst looking at her, smirking. Owner and elder colleague kept on mocking my superior about, should I take the first or second exit? Of course, they also mocked me with things like, each time I had to drive somewhere, T make a test drive with Formula 1 speed, or T ask superior_s name about directions and exits. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comment.